An explorer is ready for any challenge with a legendary Valkyrie. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. Somewhere in a dungeon in Japan, Kaito Takagi was using his store-bought insecticides to hunt slimes, a common practice in his daily life. As he coldly executed each of these gelatinous monsters, he holstered his poison cans like a gunslinger in the Wild West. After 2 years of this routine on the first floor of the dungeon, Kaito had just completed his 999th slime kill. Despite feeling useless for only annihilating walking jellies, he didn't get discouraged and promised to finish off the 1000th enemy to end the day on a high note. As he walked, security cameras followed his steps and analyzed his stats, which were never anything remarkable. Suddenly, he came face to face with a golden slime in the middle of the path, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to complete his 1000 victories in style against this special kind. As always, the slime destroyer approached the creature and sprayed the insecticide, but this one was much more agile than he was used to, dodging the spray with the reflexes of a fly. Kaito didn't give up and pulled out his repellent gun, this time hitting the target, which fell stiff to the ground, or rather limp. Despite the achievement, the young man noticed that even this rare monster didn't give much XP, but at least he could take its magic core in hopes of fetching a good price. Upon picking up the item, he saw the image of a mythological creature drawn on what appeared to be a gold-plated card. Examining the object's description, Kaito realized it was a Valkyrie named Sylphie, getting excited at the thought of finally obtaining a legendary servant card. Looking around to make sure no one saw him pick up the card, he quickly searched the internet for information about the Valkyrie, but there was nothing in the database about her. If he wasn't mistaken, the only thing Kaito knew was that these women were demigoddesses from some mythology, which was enough for him to deduce that this item had some interesting value. Whether the card was valuable or not, the young man had no intention of giving it to anyone. Exiting the dungeon through Gate 6, he saw adventurers heading out in their powerful armor and weapons and wondered if he'd ever get the chance to use such high-level gear. If he sold the rare card for a good price, maybe he could stroll around with a legendary flaming sword or a diamond-coated shield. With that in mind, he went to the Caverns Trading Center to sell the common slime cores he had collected. With 3 in hand, considering each was worth 500, he was offered only 1,500 yen, equivalent to $10. Playing the innocent boy, he asked the clerk how much it would be worth if he sold a rare servant card, and she said that such an item was worth about 1 billion yen overseas. Hearing this, the kid spiraled into a crazy obsession, unable to stop repeating that amount as he wandered around in a daze. After storing his belongings and leaving, he looked like a zombie, muttering the same thing until he reached the exit of the establishment, where he conducted his expeditions, the dungeon and resort, still under the watchful eyes of security cameras. The next day, on the establishment's 4-year anniversary, he was still on the same track as the day before, and this time his friends heard what he was saying and asked what this 1 billion talk was about. Trying to deflect the issue, Kaito turned to Shinji and Hayato and heard that they had obtained explorer passports and could enjoy the anniversary event's attractions for free. Later on the way home, Kaito remembered that he was only on level 3, but his friends could return and explore the dungeons to find something interesting. However, the two wanted to stay away from that kind of adventure for now. Recently, they had descended to level 2 and underestimated the goblins, thinking defeating those monsters would be easier than taking candy from a baby, but they got a merciless beating from one of those creatures. After that, they decided it was better to enjoy a light amusement park rather than get thrashed for nothing. As for Kaito, they found it curious that he had been killing slimes non-stop for 2 years, so Kaito explained that he didn't go to the dungeon just for that, but didn't delve into the matter. Upon reaching his street, walking along the sidewalk at night, Kaito was recognized by a girl from her bedroom window who seemed happy to see him passing by. The next day, a quiz show host asked how many years it had been since the dungeons appeared, and a contestant hit the button to answer that it had been 13 years, the correct response. During the meal, Kaito's parents emphasized that he needed to work but shouldn't forget to study. However, all he could think about was that card and what would happen if he summoned summon the Valkyrie. If he did, maybe he could go to the more difficult levels of the dungeons, but if he sold the card, he could buy his dream equipment plus a mansion with a pool and a private dungeon next to a home theater. This cruel dilemma hammered so much in the boy's head that he could hardly sleep, to the point of going to school the next day without rest. At least the nosy girl Katsuragi left home at the same time as him, so they bumped into each other. Seizing the moment, she asked where he went last night since she saw him returning home, so he said he was at an all-boys meeting with Shinji and Hayato, the famous boys club. Speaking of the devil, the two popped up out of nowhere on the path, so Kaito grabbed them and asked them not to tell that he went to the dungeon yesterday. Katsuragi asked what they were doing together, and each responded with something different. Noticing the inconsistency, the girl questioned if Kaito had gone to the dungeon again, but the kid lied blatantly. Innocent or not, Katsuragi believed him and went on her way. Arriving at school, Kaito asked his friends what they would do if they found a rare servant card, and the two replied that they would definitely sell it to become rich, especially since a servant could only be summoned inside the dungeons. Anyway, they pointed out that finding such a card was harder than winning the lottery, and Kaito gave a sheepish smile. During classes, he couldn't get the issue out of his head, reflecting that he wouldn't be able to sell the card if he summoned the servant, not even knowing if it would be useful to him. However, looking at Katsuragi, other ideas came to his mind. As soon as he returns to the dungeon, he pulls out the card and realizes it's worth $1 billion, but he knows he needs to follow the right path for Katsuragi's sake. Then he summons Sylphie the Valkyrie, creating a powerful tornado in the cave that dissipates, revealing the figure of a gigantic mythological creature. This creature envelops the boy in its hands until it completely disappears, leaving the card user lost. However, a small innocent Valkyrie pokes him on the back and introduces herself as Sylphie, making the poor boy kneel, feeling the $1 billion he had in his pocket slip away. Sylphie asks what's going on, so Kaito pretends it's nothing and invites the little girl to go slime hunting with her uncle. A few steps ahead, she catches her master's attention and alerts him to the presence of a nearby slime, and he is surprised to see that she can detect creatures around. In the end, the Valkyrie was right, and an unsuspecting slime was lurking in the depths of the cave. As usual, Kaito draws the insecticide, but before attacking, he asks Sylphie if she can defeat the creature. The small mythological figure enthusiastically affirms that she can, and then she steps forward to make a demonstration. Conjuring an extremely powerful divine lightning, she disintegrates the poor blue jelly without mercy, with a smile on her face, leaving her master speechless. He knows she has 170 combat points, 17 times more than he does, and that she continues to be a goddess even if only half of one. Changing the subject, the Valkyrie mentions that her stomach growled and looks directly at the defeated creature's magic core. Kaito asks if she wants to eat the core, and she nods. Kaito had read somewhere that servants were fed with this substance, so he lets her eat it. As expected, the girl thanks him enthusiastically for replenishing her energy and calls her master to face another slime she detected, but he asks her to take a break. From what he observed, Sylphie gets hungry when she fights and needs to feed on the magic cores she gets, but since it's the only valuable thing in a slime, he would end up with nothing because he would have to feed the girl. In that case, he would run out of money for the insecticide, so he thinks of a plan and asks the servant to find new slimes. By doing so, he maintains his usual strategy of killing the creatures with the repellent, just having Sylphie detect their presence without expending energy in the fight. With that, he levels up to 4 and celebrates, plus his combat points go up by 2 points. Sylphie enthusiastically congratulates her master until he notices that he earned the title of Slime Exterminator, increasing his stats by 50% when facing a monster of that species. Obviously, this dampened the boy's excitement because being enhanced against a slime is like having 2 slippers to kill an ant instead of just 1. Sylphie tries to console her master, saying that having new skills is great and highlighting how incredible it is that he achieved that, and Kaito thinks it's nice of her to be like that, but something still bothers him deeply. The girl asks what it is, but he says it's nothing much. Then he announces that he will stop exploring the dungeon for today. Making a sad face, Sylphie asks if she will be summoned again, and he promises she will, which relieves the girl. Then he pulls out the card to return Sylphie inside. At the sales counter, Kaito impresses the employee with the amount of magic cores he collected in just 1 day of expedition, and he says he was lucky to find a bunch of slimes slimes at once. The woman believes him and emphasizes that he broke the record for slimes hunted in a single day and announces a value of 15,000 yen in exchange for all the items he collected. At night back home, Kaito Takagi still couldn't sleep in bed this time, reflecting on how powerful the Valkyrie actually is. With her, perhaps he can really go to the second floor, even though he's afraid of goblins. Many years ago, when he was a child, Kaito watched a live broadcast of Dungeon 37 on TV with Katsuragi, where the girl's father, Captain Katsuragi, tells the reporter that he intends to go to the deepest level of the dungeon and one day uncover the secret of these mysterious caves. The reporter comments on how the captain faces the unknown with courage and wisdom, and every word of that story enchanted young Kaito more and more, who didn't take his eyes off the television for a second. In sequence, Kaito wakes up from this dream and knows what he has to do. Thus, he prepares to go to the second level of the dungeon alongside Sylphie with improvised equipment. As always, the Valkyrie shows all her joy in participating in this expedition for the first time, and the boy makes it clear that he counts on her in this decisive moment. After all this time being content with slimes, Kaito descends the dungeon stairs towards a new challenge, and just like Captain Katsuragi, he promises to uncover the mysteries of the depths and become a hero just like the captain, while also pursuing another goal just as important.